I just realized someone just joined chat. Holy shit, I didn't even see that. What? What? How is there chat? I don't see it. Why don't I see chat? There's no chat here. And yet chat is on screen. What the fuck? Where are you coming from? I can't. No wonder I didn't see them chat, because they're not even. There's no chat. What the fuck? What? I'm so confused. All right. Anyway, Pokemon Scarlet was an interesting thing. I actually started playing the game all the way back when it first released back in 2022, and man, that tutorial is like so long. It takes like an hour and a half to complete, and by the time that the game really opens up to you, it like you're like so done with playing the game. And I didn't know how the game played out, so I was like exploring the whole map, in that, area 1, right? And I was like, this is annoying. Like, I wanna, if this is how like the game's pacing is from this point forward, like I'm gonna hate it. But we ultimately restarted our playthrough, because we were initially going to do a let's play of it, right? And we decided to stream it. And once we started streaming, well, I can say that my attitude towards it turned around. I will say that the introduction is still a little bit slow, but once you get past that, you actually find yourself with an actually good game here. And looking beyond the glitches, beyond the weird graphics, which I'm not really a huge fan of, just this 3D Pokemon art style in general. I really liked it with X and Y and Let's Go, but pretty much everything since then has just been very weird. I do love how the colors pop though in Sun and Moon, but after that there's like not really much. So I think we need to go back to the pixels moving forward, but we probably will never do that. And we'll just keep getting these shitty games moving forward. But if you look past the graphics and you look past the visual and any other bugs that are in this game, you actually find yourself a decent game with an interesting game loop, right? I wasn't really accustomed to open world games, and my first true open world game that I played was technically Breath of the Wild, but I actually finished Tears of the Kingdom. I didn't finish Breath of the Wild, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. So that's what kind of gave me the want to revisit Scarlet and Violet, especially as the DLC was coming out. And after pushing through that terrible tutorial section, I actually found myself in a decent place where I was enjoying the gameplay loop, and I pretty much almost completed the Pokedex, which I can say is not something I would have done in any other entry, right? And I dabbled a little bit with Legends Arceus. I wasn't a huge fan of how that gameplay loop worked, just because it wasn't a traditional Pokemon game where the focus is on the battles. It's more focusing on the capturing. But I like this weird little middle ground that we have here, where it's still easy to catch Pokemon, but it's still a traditional experience, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself with this game. It was a lot of fun. Having Pug join me along the way was also a lot of fun. We didn't really get to utilize the Union Circle as much as I wanted to. It's just kind of cool to be exploring basically in the same game, and I find it really cool that even version exclusives just appear in your world when you're connected to another player. And the whole idea of the Union Circle is great, if only you didn't freaking disconnect every 2 seconds. So it's a great concept, but unfortunately with the way NSO is, the way my internet is, and because we're streaming as well, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's a really, really cool concept, and I thoroughly enjoy it. Now, I will say one thing I would like to change is that you still have to go into the menu and trade, whereas I would have liked it if you're connected in a Union Circle, you could just pop up a trade menu and just say, hey, can I trade with you right now? Really quick and easy, rather than having to link with them when you're already linked up, So I feel like that would be a lot better. And what would be even cooler is if you came up to them, talked to them, and you would almost be able to initiate a battle right there, right? That would be really cool, because then you can just battle your friends anywhere in Paldea, anywhere in Kitakami, and anywhere in Unova. So it would be a pretty cool concept if they did that, but obviously we don't have that. Next up is the music. The music was very catchy, but it does get very old very quickly. I found that the main overworld theme the Mesa Goza theme, as well as the Area Zero theme, just got really, really freaking annoying after a while, because I've just been, constantly in the same place, and it's only probably because the loop is so short. It just gets really annoying. And finally, but however, music is actually really good, and especially in the DLC, the music just jumps up a huge notch. I love all the Kitakami music. I love the 4 different variations that you get in Unova in the Terrarium, and all of the remixes that come back that are just amazing as well. Now for the story. The story is actually pretty good. I am not really a huge fan of the games that don't really have world-ending stakes to them, and we kind of stopped having the world-ending stakes with Sword and Shield, and I'm not really a huge fan of those storylines. I really do like it when there's something to actually be and work towards, rather than all of a sudden all the story getting smushed in your face right at the end, right? And the problem with Sword and Shield is that they said there was a bunch of stuff going on, and nothing was really going on. It was just empty, right? It was just like Lance, what is his name? Not Lance. What's the champion of Galar? Whatever. He just shows up and is like, oh, Pokemon are Dynamaxing everywhere, and they're not doing that. And a lot of the story is just kind of missing, even though you're right in the middle of the action, and all the story was slammed up right up against the end of the game. And the same thing actually kind of happens here. But I do thoroughly enjoy the little moments, because this is one of those games that I would say maybe Legends Arceus kind of pioneered it, but this is the start of the game starting to focus on more of a Persona element, where it's more of the one-on-one interactions between you and the character, and there's so much side content that we did on stream, which is good, to the point where instead of just doing weird random mini games, you're actually spending time with these characters and getting to know their personalities. And I love that one-on-one nature, so much to the point that the post-game event, the epilogue, was probably one of my favorite things that they had in the game, purely because I love seeing the interaction between Carmine and Kieran and the rest of the gang, the Zero Gang, right? And that was really cool. On top of that, you get to spend time with the teachers, which not only opens up new tutorials for you, but also the legendary Pokemon when you do the post-game events, right? You just get to experience these smaller characters in ways that you really wouldn't in older Pokemon games, and I really like that. But I think that in future entries, they need to find a balance where you still have this crazy, main story, while also having that one-on-one time with your friends. And I think they need to find that balance, because pretty much what they did here is slammed all the events right at the end, right? And we all went to Area Zero at the end. It just didn't seem like we were building up to that, right? But I thoroughly enjoy all the characters. Nemona, Arven, and Penny are great. I think I would have loved to see more of Penny, especially because she was going by so many different aliases, but that was just the way of her story, so it wasn't that bad. I think I love the DLC stories a lot more, even though they were quite shorter. I did love seeing what Kieran had to go through over time, and then ultimately, something that you don't see is that you're in stories is like, oh, their turmoil is resolved, and oh, well, we're all happy and we walk into the sunset. Luckily, with this game, we got the epilogue, and we get to see Kieran post being a dick, right? We get to see him, realizing his problems and saying, okay, I'm sorry, I'm taking a break from school. You don't ever really get to see that with characters. Usually they're like, okay, we resolved the problem, we walk off into the sunset, and we only get to just assume that their lives are much better at that point. But we actually get to see him after his resolution, which is cool. And again, I love seeing all the characters interact in ways that we probably wouldn't have expected from the base game, since again, we are seeing these characters after the main events of the story, which is something that rarely ever happens. And something I didn't expect before they announced the Mochi post-game thing was I figured that Carmine and Kieran were going to stay separate from the Zero crew, right? And you'll just have these two sets of friends, right? But we didn't. We actually got something pretty creative and interesting out of that. And for a lot of people, they thought that the Mochi side quest was a lot better than most of the story in the game, which is crazy because a lot of people are saying that this story is on par with something like Black and White in terms of, you know, again, the general story, not like the end, you know, world-ending type thing, because Black and White is still probably superior on that front. And yeah, I mean, fuck, I didn't expect to do 11 parts on this. I was originally only going to do 10, and I did not expect to have as much content as I did in this game. It is filled to the brim with stuff to do, and it's crazy because I just went from Sword and Shield, which basically had nothing, and I did pretty much all of the side quests. And not to mention, they encourage you to do a lot of the side stuff more, whereas in past games, they really didn't. It's like, oh, this is this weird minigame. Okay, great. Now this is like, okay, we're integrating the minigames more into the story, and then, you know, if you want to continue to do the minigame, then you can get more stuff out of it, right? And then there's only a few things that I didn't do, right? I didn't do the shiny Munchlax event, right? I didn't do that because I thought that that minigame was boring, and it was allowing me to pick and choose the things that I wanted to do. I really wanted to do these legendary Pokemon post-game. I didn't realize that I needed to catch every single goddamn Pokemon in the terrarium. So that was unfortunate, but it was still a lot of fun being able to do everything. But that's pretty much it. That's my thoughts on this game. I thought I had a really fun time, so if you enjoyed my stream, go and check out Pug's stream, because he still has to finish most of the DLC. I think he still has to finish the Indigo Disc and the Mochi Mayhem if he so chooses. But go ahead, bless you, and check him out and watch his stream. I will have an edited version of this series out pretty soon. I don't know when, but eventually. But yeah, that's gonna do it. See you guys next time.